Over 800 years ago, the great sage and poet Nizami Ganjavi lived and died in Ganja, Azerbaijan's second city. He spoke and wrote of justice, equality, and nonviolence. He asked all to welcome diversity and learn to find and cherish the treasures that every culture produces. He valued women as full-blooded creatures with intellect and ability equal to men. And he produced some of the most beautiful epic poems in the Muslim world, a poetic legacy that great Western figures like Goethe appreciated and valued. The Nizami Ganjavi International Center, the NGIC, was founded in the 21st century to celebrate the legacy of the magnificent sage. His ethics are universal and still relevant more than 8 centuries later. And accordingly, our activities seek to promote learning, tolerance, dialogue, and understanding in a world whose complexities need people of merit and sincerity to work together across political divides, regardless of gender, ethnic, religious, or national origin. In these pursuits, founded in honoring our common humanity, we work with like-minded organizations, and we are proud to count the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights as one of the most important of these partners. It is appropriate that we should salute our friend and valued member of the NGIC Board of Trustees, Kerry Kennedy, daughter of the late Robert F. Kennedy, who lost his life to an assassin's bullet 52 years ago. Now, humanity is hit by an insidious pandemic, and the economic consequences of this confrontation have brought misery and unemployment to many, especially the poor. The United States has been the most severely hit nation on earth, but today the cries of anguish are for the continued examples of institutionalized racism and violence. The cities of the United States are convulsed by a protest movement against police brutality and for equality and dignity for all, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the simple assertion of basic human rights. Echoes in other cities of the world show that most do recognize the legitimacy of this appeal to our common humanity. And so today, more than ever, we need to remember the thoughtful and eloquent words of Robert Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy was a true leader who spoke for the underdog, the poor, and the marginalized, and valued the United States not only for what it had achieved, but for the promise of what it could still do. He said, "Some men see things as they are and ask, why? I dream of things that never were and ask, why not?" But he was also a leader who could see beyond what divides society to the magic thread of the common humanity that we all share. Oh, how his voice is needed today. Kennedy understood that to overcome hatred, to destroy racism root and branch, to unite the diverse components of a nation to work for a common purpose would not be achieved by any single act, but by many acts, inspired by the vision of equality and dignity for all, would unleash what he called ripples of hope. For he said, each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. And confronted by the mindless menace of violence in American society that had just claimed the life of the great civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., he had the insight and the flair to see beyond the physical violence of the sniper and the bomb, to see beyond the madness of the mob, and to recognize the insidious violence of institutionalized discrimination. And he said, "For there is another kind of violence slower but just as deadly, destructive as the shot or the bomb in the night. This is the violence of institutions, indifference and inaction and slow decay. This is the violence that afflicts the poor, that poisons relations between men because their skin has different colors. This is a slow destruction of a child by hunger, schools without books, and homes without heat in the winter. This is the breaking of a man's spirit by denying him the chance to stand as a father and as a man among other men. And this too afflicts us all. Indeed, today the world is gripped by demonstrations against that same institutionalized violence that Kennedy confronted half a century ago. But we are all the more conscious of it thanks to the voices of leaders like him, leaders of human rights, leaders of the civil rights movement. And Kennedy himself would be assassinated within 2 months of Martin Luther King. But these great leaders who gave their lives to support the causes they believed in have left us a legacy that we need to remember today. And to the heirs of Robert Kennedy's legacy, we of the NGIC extend our hands and say, together, let us work to continue to unleash the ripples of hope and to promote the vision of a better future for all. I am Ismail Sirajuddin, co-chair of the Board of Trustees of the Nizami Ganjavi International Center.